Listen, listen, listen. Let me tell you something. I had to play my love song. Listen, I'm gonna have to, pull my girls in, and we gonna have to do this, recording and so forth and so on, so I can make my video for the love song. But I'm glad to have you with me today for Marriage Monday. Listen, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel here at All I Know TV. Welcome to my Facebook family. Welcome to my YouTube family, and welcome to my Periscope family. Glad to have you with me today on another Marriage Monday. Please, again, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have some guests that are going to be with me today. But before my guests come, I got to do something that the Lord put on my heart today to do with relation to talking about marriage, but sharing some insight with you about my marriage. We talk a lot about everybody else's marriages and things of that nature and things that are going on in their lives. But I wanted to share a little bit today with you from my book that I wrote. As you can see in the background, I'm trying to hold it up so you can see. Married Life, there we go. Married Life Straight Talk. And I want to share some things with you from my book, from my own personal. We talk again a lot about other people and what they're doing, but I want to share today, I want to share with you the introduction to my book. And so in the introduction, I shared this, and I want you to order. You can get a copy of it off of Amazon, of course. And I am an author on Amazon. I've written 4 books, and they are all on Amazon. But I just want to share this with you today to give you a little more insight to why I am so passionate about Marriage Monday and why it is important for us to help each other in our relationships, for us to help each other in our marriages. And some of you that are married, or all of you that will watch, I'm going to give you a homework assignment today. Because I want us to be better. I want us to do better with our relationships. Now, this book is not just for married people. It's for singles as well. It's for those that are engaged to be married. So I want to make sure that I make that clear. It's not just about people that are married. So in the introduction, I write, when I was growing up in church, I discovered that marriage and sex were only discussed on the surface. I kept wondering when young ladies became pregnant with no husband, why they were sent away for a period of time, why they were always sick, why I could never spend the night at various homes. None of the senior people in the church ever talked about it. It was taboo. It was always the younger adults, after they had gotten caught and were brought before the church or their business became public, that it was mentioned. Yet we always got scriptures. They always gave us scriptures, but they never really shed any light on the real raw reality of what was going on. Then one day, I asked my dad a few questions, and he shared with me that when he was growing up as a young man, the only time his father talked to him about sex was he asked him one question. And that question was, well, he asked him a question when he was dating my mom. And the question was, boy, are you screaming in that canyon? He made a vow to himself that if he ever had children, he would never leave them wondering about various aspects of life and not take the time to share what the scriptures the church was giving us to read meant about the unmarried. And he did just that. I so appreciate my father because I could have gotten caught up so easily otherwise at an early age if he hadn't taken the time to share information and insight and just give us pure wisdom as it related to marriage and sex. As a young lady daydreaming and thinking about my future in marriage and having a family, I decided at that moment that I would tell my children about sex and marriage. My mind went back to my dad making this statement. It's better to be the one that can talk than to be the one that's talked about. So be careful. Be careful of the choices that you make. Then my mind went back to something that my dad shared with my brother after my brother told him that he knew about sex based on what his friends at school told him. My father said to him, "Son, your friends don't nearly have the experience that I have because they are the same age as you are, 11. Go figure. Some 11-year-olds trying to tell other 11-year-olds about sex. They have no children and no wife. They pay no bills or anything of the sort. If you want to know about sex, come to me. And I will answer any and all questions that you may have as it pertains to where you are and your need to know. Never feel like you can't come to me because I am your father. Lastly, son, I may not always be with you, but the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good." That's Proverbs 15:3. That saved me from getting caught up into the drugs and alcohol, from singing R&B music and getting caught up in that lifestyle, which would have led to premarital sex and even adultery. Listen, I'm telling you, I lived around it. We grew up in the projects in West Oakland, in Chestnut Court, and we saw a lot of people doing a lot of different things. And I declared before God in that moment that I would not get caught up. I made that vow to God and myself that I would not allow my circumstances, I would not allow my surroundings, I would not allow what other people were doing in and outside of their marriages as we were growing up, knowing what was going on in people's business. And at that time, it was no social media. At that time, it was none of the above. But I just made a decision in myself that I wanted my life to be on a particular path. So upon becoming married and hearing so many sordid stories and seeing various examples of marriage, it has helped my husband and I to be where we are today. There are some things that we have not experienced in our relationships. And then there are other things that we've experienced in our relationship that we have worked on sometimes daily so that we could be in a place of peace in our marriage. There are some, but those things that we have experienced have helped us as individuals, and it has helped us together as a unit to be who we were called to be. No, everything is not perfect. Listen, I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to keep moving, but I just need to say something. Stop looking for the perfect mate. Stop looking and stop trying to present yourself that you are perfect to other people. None of us are perfect. We are a work in progress. And so as long as you are honest, as long as you are true, and as long as you are real to who you are and what you bring to the table, then you don't have to worry about trying to be perfect. What you have to worry about is just being yourself and helping your flawed self be the person that your mate desires. Everybody is not the same. Every person is not the same. Everybody is not looking for the same thing in a relationship. So just because you see other people that obtain success in their marriages, you have to work at your relationship every single day. You must work at it every single day. And I'm telling you, you have to be willing to put the work in to create a successful marriage. We are fleshly beings living out our spiritual purpose. And so it is very important that we exercise daily to be who God has called us to be, first of all, and then be who our mate desires for us to be. On June 27th, 1987, at the Ephesians Church of God in Christ in Berkeley, California, our colors were red and white. I had one matron of honor, one maid of honor, two best men, 8 bridesmaids, 5 candlelighters. Okay, and we had 8 groomsmen. 5 candlelighters, 3 flower girls, 1 Bible boy, 1 ring bearer, 1 junior bride and groom. And the church was filled with people that heard these words. I, Stanley / Alfreda, take you, Alfreda or Stanley, to be my lawfully wedded wife and husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love, honor, and cherish and obey, forsaking all others as long as we both shall live. We had no previous marital experience, and even based on what we saw, our experience has been like no other. Even through the ups and downs, we've managed to do it through straight talk. I may be the praise and worship leader, gospel recording artist, etc. And he may be the man of God that preaches and proclaims the word of God. But when we are at home, I'm the straight up wife and he's the straight up husband. Some lessons are learned quicker than others, and the sooner you learn them, the easier it is on your relationship to your spouse, your relationship to God, and your relationship with your children, your relationship with your church family, your relationship with your co-workers and colleagues, even in ministry. I pray that this book helps you to dig into your heart, No matter how many years you've been married, bring forth the straight talk in your married life and share it with those that are younger than you or on their way to married life. I wrote that on February 18th, 2011. And here we are. What is this? August of 2020. And I still hold fast to that every single day. Again, it is not easy. It is not perfect. You are two individuals coming from two different backgrounds, coming from being raised differently by your parents, being raised. Some people weren't raised by their parents. They were raised by their grandparents, or some people were raised by their aunts and uncles and things of that nature. So the way people do isn't always the same across the board. We can all go to church together, but we are not all raised the same way. And so when you are coming together as two individuals, you have to work at becoming one. You have to work at trying to obtain the same goals. He may want to do it one way, you may want to do it another way, but you all have to come together to make it work. Stop trying to be like the Joneses. Y'all don't know what's happening behind the doors with the Joneses. So all you see is what you see in public. And even if you go to the Joneses house, the Joneses still are not going to show you all that the Joneses are doing in their private times and in their households. Absolutely. You do come from two different backgrounds and it is work. Do not allow anybody to tell you that marriage is easy. Marriage is this and marriage is that. And they create this whole narrative, if you will, about how it's just peachy, peachy, peachy. Boo, let me tell y'all something. And the reason I'm saying this, my guests will be on a little later, but I wanted to spend this time to talk to people in a real pragmatic way. It is so important that you not get caught up on the hype. People can make stuff look easy. People can make stuff look like, they just living on easy street. It takes work and it takes time. Even after 33 years, there are still some things that my husband and I have to work through. Again, because we weren't always raised the same way. We weren't taught the same things. And it is important that you put your pride aside, ma'am, sir, that you put your ego aside and that you two work at becoming one. Sometimes that means keeping your family out of your business. Sometimes that means you work it out. Everybody want to have somebody they can talk to and bounce things off of, and that's all well and good. But if you bouncing stuff, married person, off of your single friend, shame on you. You connect with somebody else that's married and connect with them on and ask them some questions. Ask people that have been successful or have been together, because listen, let me tell you this, just because people have been married a long amount of time, that don't mean that their marriage is successful. That just means some people are good at being roommates. Let's be very clear. Everybody that's married don't sleep in the same bed. Everybody that's married don't have the same goals in mind, but some people just refuse to leave the marriage, quote unquote, because some people just don't want y'all to talk about their business. Some people just don't want y'all in their business. So they've come to an agreement that we are going to still be married, but this is how we gonna live. Some people are still married, but they got boyfriends and girlfriends on the side. If we tell the whole truth, if we tell the straight truth, if we tell nothing but the truth, but people make all sorts of agreements and arrangements in their marriages. But I'm telling you, we have to remember, those that are raising children, those that are being an example to people, you must be careful. You can't be living a double life and think that junk ain't gonna pop up, because at some point it's gonna pop up. Some point it's gonna creep up. And then what are you gonna do? Man of God, woman of God, all of these sorts of things of God. And see, marriage is not just about believers. Marriage is an institution that God created. And so it's not just something between believers. There are people that are not believers that are married. And the ironic thing is there are people that don't believe in God, but they believe in their marriage, and they will put forth that effort to make sure that their marriages are happy. They want their marriages to be peaceful. That is the one thing that I want to talk about in this moment, even before my guests come. It is imperative. It is important that you create the bond of peace in your marriage. It is imperative. It is important. Do not make your house to where your husband or your wife, your spouse don't want to come home. They shouldn't have what they call them work husbands and work wives. Really? Where they do that at? You create such a presence in your marriage, and you create such a presence in your home, and you create such a presence in your relationship that when you're not in their presence, you want to be in their presence. That when you're not in their presence, you call them, hey, what you doing? I'm at work. I know you at work, but I just wanted to hear your voice. ... You create them levels of excitement. So then you ain't got to worry about them having no work husband and no work wife and all of these sorts of things, because one thing will lead to the next. And if you can't have conversation at home, he or she is going to have conversation somewhere else. And then their interest is going to change. They're going to look at you as just a roommate, not as their lover. But they'll look at that work wife or that work husband as their lover. Then they'll start going to lunch with them. Then they'll be working late, but they'll be with them. And then all of those sorts of things. And then you start having problems in your marriage because now you don't want to fool with your mate at the house because you done already got what you wanted. That part. So now you tired because you done already been to the hotel. And then you come home and you just want to go to bed. No, ma'am, and no, sir. You better cut that foolishness out. Because, see, this ain't the day for that anyway in this season, because you don't know what people carrying. It used to be STDs and all of that. Now this stuff is real. You can't take no pill for this stuff that people carrying and using now. So you have to really, really, really honor your vows. Honor what you made that commitment, whether you were standing before 10,000, whether you were standing before 1,000, whether you were standing before 3, whether you were standing before the judge and it was just you and that person that you married. No matter who you stood before, you also stood before God and made those vows. And so work at keeping your vows. And that helps you when you keep your vows in your marriage. It also helps you to keep your vows to other people so that you just won't be lying, that you just won't be going off half-cocked, that you just won't be saying, okay, I'll do this, okay, I'll do that, when you know from the gate that you're not going to do it. I'm telling y'all the truth. And so I'm admonishing you. I'm pleading with you as it relates to marriage, as it relates to your relationship. Those that are engaged to be married, don't say we don't need no marriage counseling. Go get some counseling. Listen, while y'all dating, while y'all even considering it, ask about their family. Ask them some questions about how they was raised. Ask them those questions. Don't wait till you get married to find that stuff out. Ask the questions. Ask this question. Baby, listen, you better write you a checklist. Do a background check on them. Check and see if they got any warrants. Check and see all of this. Check and see if they've been arrested. Because some people ain't going to tell you that. They ain't going to tell you that the name they giving you ain't their real name, ain't their government name. And then you hook up with them, and okay, here we go. So let's take it a step further. And you meet these people on social media. And you develop a relationship via social media. Y'all be careful with all that. I'm telling y'all better do your homework. That's why I said we're going to have homework today. I want you to do your homework. I want you to take the time and ask some questions, people. And even if you're married and some things you don't know, ask the questions. You're going to either get one answer one way or the other. And if you get it the other, then you know, okay, so we need to do a little more digging. Because what will happen is you will marry somebody and they already caught up and they already in the system, and they already this, that, and the third, and you living such a little peaceful life, loving God, and on the praise team, and all of this, that, and the third, and then all of a sudden you at work. Ask me how I know, because somebody told me this. At work, and the people come to your job because of your spouse. You didn't know he had warrants. You didn't know he had a criminal record. Instead of using his government name, he used his middle name and his last name. And so you couldn't look him up with that middle name and that last name. So the people come to your job, and the people start asking you questions about your husband. And you never knew he had a whole criminal record. You never knew he had a whole criminal history. You never knew any of those things, only to discover that the person that you were married to was a monster in disguise. And that young lady's life was miserable. And the sad part about it, she would run her mouth so much about other people. And she would talk about how other people didn't treat their mates, and how other people didn't do this, and how other people didn't do that. And when she got married, she would never be like that. And she would never. And her husband would treat her like a queen, and this, that, and the third, only to find out and discover. And when they slapped his information on her desk with a file and left her job, she sat there and read all about the person that she married. People, I'm telling y'all, I don't care how good they look. They can rent a suit. They can rent a car. Now they can rent an Airbnb and make you think that that's their spot. And they can have a suitcase full of pictures, and a suitcase full of stuff that they have accrued over the years, and swap that out at the Airbnb, and you won't know no different. I'm telling y'all, this is serious. Life is serious. And if you are not serious about being in a relationship long term, don't marry them. Just be their boyfriend or their girlfriend. You do not. If you are walking down that aisle and you get to the point somewhere in your little heart and in your little spirit, and I know you done spent a lot of money, and you done spent money on invitations, and you done spent money on this dress, and y'all done spent money on rings and all of this, that, and the third. Y'all done got a spot. Y'all got your mail going there and everything else. But if you stand in front of that preacher and you have any inkling in your heart that this is not for you, because everybody done talked you into it and you really didn't want this in the first place, and if you get to that point with that preacher and he say, do you blah, 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 and you feel that in your heart, you better say, I don't. Because one of the coldest things ever is to be on your honeymoon and not have no moon in the honey. One of the coldest things ever is to pretend that you are happily married and you are miserable on the inside. One of the coldest things ever is to get caught up in a scam situation. And you have to live with that. You have to live through that. You try to pull other people in, and yes, people will have sympathy, and yes, people will have compassion, and yes, people will have all of these things towards you. But at the end of the day, you are the person that's going to have to live through that. While everybody is at home talking about you, you got to live through that. While everybody is putting you on blast on social media and put your business in the street, you have to live through that. I choose not to live like that. I chose not to live like that. If I walk down that aisle with all them people in that church and all them gifts they brought and all that food we had and all of that, and my dad made this dress, I wouldn't have even got to that point. I wouldn't have gotten to that point. I wouldn't have wanted people to spend all of that money. And I'm trying to fake the funk like I'm really in love and like I really want to be married to somebody, only to know in my heart of hearts I don't. But I'm trying to impress people that don't really care that much about me. No way. No, we don't do that. Because at the end of the day, you are involving other people's lives, and some of this stuff, some people never recover from. And so it's very important, people, that we do this the right way. Don't try to have no big old wedding if that ain't your budget. Listen, y'all better go, y'all better do it in the driveway. Because now you can have more people outside than inside. So you can have an outdoor wedding with up to 100 people. If you do it in the church, you can't have that many. And so I'm telling you, it is imperative. It is crucial. It is important, because then you are going to bring other people into your marriage. You're going to bring individuals that are called children into your relationships. And then what will be your example to your children? You're going to tell them, I hate daddy, but I love you. Really? So now you're teaching your children to be unbalanced. You're teaching your children that it's okay to be married, or it's okay to have kids, but don't love somebody else. No. You have to be an example to your children in all areas of your life. So in the case that your marriage doesn't work out, you still do not be disrespectful to the person that you couldn't stay married to with relation to the children. You teach your children to love. You teach your children to be respectful to their parents. You teach your children to love both parents, regardless that the parents couldn't work it out. But you teach your children how to love, because your children are going to grow up and see what you've showed them and demonstrate that to others. And so I'm telling you, these are things that people don't want to talk about. Oh, they want to talk about, girl, you need to get one of them big old rings and get you your dress designed by this designer and do all of this. And y'all go to the Four Seasons for your honeymoon, and y'all go here and y'all go there. Boo, if your money don't say Four Seasons, you better go rent you an Airbnb, go to that grocery store and get you some food. And no, I'm serious. You better do what you need to do to help your marriage to be successful. Because at the end of the day, all of them people that you tried to impress and all of them gifts and all of that stuff won't put no food in that house. And y'all sitting over there looking at each other and y'all stomachs growling. The devil is a whole lie. Go get you. I'm telling y'all, seriously, you have to do this, because there are people that are praying for people's marriages to fail. They don't want to see people be successful in their marriages. And they, listen, okay, come on here. Yes, come on. People don't understand the wedding is for the people. The work starts after all of that is over. Thank you, ma'am. Listen. So this is what I'm going, listen, y'all done shifted in my seat. Listen, the wedding is for the people. But let me tell y'all something. Y'all need to stop trying to impress people. I'm telling you, because if you don't, you're going to go home to an apartment broke. Some people have spent more money on the wedding and don't have no furniture. Where they do that at? You ought to at least make sure that if you can't afford, to have this big, listen, let me tell you something. When we got married, my father called a meeting of our families, and he had all of our family members to determine who was going to bring what for the reception. He said they are just starting out, and I don't want them to have to spend a whole lot of money on the reception. So we are going to come together as family members to make sure they don't have to spend a dime for the wedding reception. As a matter of fact, we hardly had to spend any money for our wedding, period. We had people that supported us. We had people that loved on us. We had people, somebody paid for the pictures. Somebody paid for the video. Somebody paid for the cake. Somebody paid for all of those different things. My father made my dress. All I had to buy was my shoes. My sister made my veil. I'm telling you, it's like people will, and you got to get out of this prideful place that people don't know what I want. I want this, I want that. Well, all you got to do is be a little nice and be a little kind, and the people will give you the money to get what you need. But some of y'all brides is really a bridezilla, and you cut up so much that people just put their hands up and say, I'm good. I may show up and I may not. I might just give them a gift card because we don't know how this is going to work. But at the end of the day, this other comment is working me right now. Get delivered from the people. I'm telling you, when you are delivered from the people, I tell you, people will tell you, oh, you shouldn't marry him because he's too this. People shouldn't marry, you shouldn't marry him because he's too that or she's too this. I had some girls to tell me when I got ready to get married, oh, he ain't gonna really marry you. He just stringing you along. He just brainwashing you. He don't really want you. You too skinny. He don't really want you. You too dark. And your husband is light. That's why I make sure this picture stays posted every time I'm on here for Marriage Monday, because I need them to see that what y'all said, he wanted something, because we got 3 sons and he didn't get that speaking in tongues and just looking at me in my eyes. He wanted something. So at the end of the day, you have to be delivered from people. People gonna talk. People gonna tell you all this, that, and the third, and let them talk. But your marriage is your marriage. And what works for you, works for you. What works for them, works for them. Don't try to compare your stuff to nobody else. I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Stop trying to compare what you see, because it's only what you see. It ain't the real deal sometimes. Because he talking to her nice on the outside, but he cusses her out all the time on the inside. What happened? And then you get to the house and there's a slip up and then you looking sideways. That's why Y'all got me scratching my head. But anyway, so be delivered from the people. All of y'all that want to be married, all of y'all, oh, my marriage is going to be like this. My marriage is going to be like that. I told you, go to marriage counseling. Y'all talk that stuff through. Talk that stuff out. You let your spouse know if you've ever been molested. You let your spouse know if you've ever been raped. You let your spouse know if you've ever had any of those encounters. Because the coldest thing that can ever happen in a relationship is when you get her on the honeymoon, or when you get with him on the honeymoon and then they ain't giving up no honey. And you trying to wonder why. And then you find out 2 or 3 years down the road what the real deal is. Y'all cut that foolishness out. Don't make decisions for the people, because you'll say, well, if I tell him, he may not want to marry me. No, you might want to tell him. It's very important. Very important that you tell them. It's very important that you speak up. It's very important if you have family issues, because one of the coldest things that could also happen is that you with your mate and then somebody, your husband say something to you wrong, or your wife says something to you wrong, and then you go call your family to come run over to handle your spouse. What? Come on, people. Tell the person that you are planning to spend the rest of your life with the real truth, the real deal about who you are and who you are connected to, and what your family history is and what your family dynamic is. Ma'am and sir, that is so very important, because if you don't and something happens, that can become a life or death situation. And if you are caught in a situation and you've been free from jail all them years and then something go down, you might be the minister of music of the prayer ministry, because you in there of the choir, because you didn't call the case, because people ain't telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. This stuff is real. This is real life. This is real talk. This is what people need to hear. So some of y'all's homework is learn to tell the truth. Tell your spouse your truth. Even if you've been married to them for years, tell your spouse your truth that you didn't tell them. So now they ain't tripping, wondering if they need to set you up to go see a psychiatrist, because you just all of a sudden flip out for no apparent reason. Tell your spouse your truth. And you know what your truth is. You don't need a prophetic word to tell your truth. You don't need nobody to come lay hands to tell your truth. Just tell your truth. You tell your spouse, if you are the wife, tell your spouse, I have a problem with the way you talk loud to me, because my father talked loud and crazy to me and I didn't know how to process that. Or I have a problem when you say things that are condescending and I leave and don't want to come back because my father or one of my male cousins was condescending to me all the time. Now he knows, don't be condescending. But if you don't cut it off, you allow things to happen, you can't be mad if you don't stop it. And it's vice versa. We have to tell our truth, people. We can't expect for God to work everything out for us and we don't do what we are supposed to do. So it's imperative. It is important. You get you a piece of paper. I don't care if it means you end up writing a whole book. Write a whole book about telling your truth and give it to him or give it to her and let them understand who you really are. Because behind everything, there is a real you in there. Tell them, I don't like the way you talk to me sometimes. I don't like how you say, I want my dinner now. No, sir. You can stop a lot of stuff and have peace in your home, wife. Sir, you can stop a lot of stuff and have peace in your home. But you have to want it and you have to stop it. And you have to not allow people to speak to you in any kind of way. You have to have a conversation, and these things need to happen prior to your marriage. Things are going to happen in your marriage, but some conversation has to happen while y'all sitting on the phone falling asleep, and then one of y'all wake up and say, hey, you sleep, and you wake up and say, no, I ain't sleep. When all the cuteness is going on. You need to have those conversations. You need to meet their family members if you can. You need to see who you really gonna be marrying into with the family people. You need to create that atmosphere. So when you go to the house, when you show up for the dinners, when you go to whatever, it ain't always, or when the dinners come up, it ain't always, well, I don't want to go, I got a headache. When you really want to say, I don't want to go because your family crazy and I don't want to be ducking and dodging no knives and no bullets and no shoes. That's what you really need to say. You really need to say that. So then he knows you just don't always have a headache when it's time to go visit his family. You need to just tell him the truth. So then he won't keep inviting you. He won't keep asking you, or you just wear a helmet because they can cook good. Go in, get you a plate to go. Hey, y'all, how y'all doing? Everybody good? Everybody solid? Praise the Lord. And you try to do as much to keep the peace. But you got to do something. It takes work. It's not going to happen overnight. Don't expect it to happen overnight. You may see us at 33 years. You're not going to have 33 years and you're just starting. So cut it out. Take it one day at a time, sir. And if you still marry her, or ma'am, if you still marry him with all of his craziness, now you've inherited the craziness. So then don't come to church trying to get in the prayer line because you married crazy. You chose to marry crazy. So you better pray at that house. You better turn some music on and you better walk around that house. Jesus, 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 God, 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 Lord, 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 get you some oil, get you something and sling it everywhere and create a sense of peace in your house, even with crazy. You got to do it, because if you don't, you can't blame other people. You cannot. You can't always run to the church house. Well, you can't do that now, but you can't always run to the people. I need y'all to pray for my husband because he's crazy. Well, you knew you married crazy. What do you want us to do? I'm not calling to get in your business. I'm not calling to tell him about his crazy, because that's who you married. That's who you chose to be. I'll pray your strength. That I will do. I'll give you some scriptures to try to encourage your heart and help you through it. But at the end of the day, you make choices. People make choices, and you can't get mad at everybody else because of the choices that they made and you didn't make those kinds of choices. If you know your husband is quiet and mild-mannered, why you got to keep running your mouth to him? If he want to come in from work after working all day and you haven't, and you go run your mouth the whole time he tired, give him a minute, give him a break. And even if he haven't, just give him a moment. You don't want to talk to me? What's wrong with you? Why are you acting like that? What did I do to you? I ain't done nothing to you. Girl, sit down and pull your neck up. Cut all of the foolishness out. He is a man. Let him be such. You are the woman. You make him want to come home, boo. Make him want to leave work early, boo. Yeah, that's what you do. Make it when he come home, he looking like, hey. Make him, when he come home, make him forget he tired. Yes, sir. I don't care how much you working with, little or big. Make sure when he walk in that door, hey, girl, y'all play too much. You got the power. You better use your power. You better use the authority that God has given you to make your marriage work, to create that ambiance, if you will, to create that presence, if you will. You know, women, y'all know men are visual. Y'all know they looking. Y'all know they like to see what they like to see. And you ain't got to show it to the rest of us, but you can show it to him. Yeah. You know men are visual. So don't have all your goodies out for everybody else and then you cover them up when he come home. What? We don't do that. No, this is the stuff that the people won't say at church. Be ye holy, for I am holy. Yeah, but marriage is honorable and all, and the bed is undefiled. That's what it say in the Bible. Let's talk about that part. And so it is so important. I'm tired of seeing people that aren't successful. I'm tired of seeing people get married and spend all this money on weddings and spend all this money on invitations. And then you spend all this money on invitations and half the people come and you really could have had the wedding at a chapel when you want to go rent out a big old church. Cut that foolishness out. I'm telling you, I'm just tired of seeing it. I want to see people happy, whether you're saved or not, and you're married. I want to see people happy in their relationships. Stop letting your parents tell you how to treat your mate. They are not sleeping in the same, they are not sleeping in the same bed with your mate and you. Cut that foolishness out. People have to learn to mind their business. And as long as you entertain what they are saying, you give room to that. You have to stop that. If your mama call you and tell you, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that, or you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, baby, you better tell mama, listen, I love you and I appreciate everything you saying. But ma'am, this is what we working with over here. Dad, this is how we working it over here. I thank you for your advice. I thank you for what you have to share. But this is how we working it because we made a vow to each other, not all y'all. And I know some people say, no, you should take their advice. I didn't say not take their advice, but you have to use wisdom in how you implement their advice into your marriage. That's what I'm saying. Some people have said, girl, you hard. Some people have said, girl, you cold. Some people have said, girl, you just shoot straight from the hip. But when you have lived your life and you've seen so much and you've had to endure so much, there are some things I don't want to see other people go through in their relationships. There are things that I don't want to see people go through in their marriages. There are pitfalls and things I want people to avoid if they can at all possible. And so that's why I am passionate about Marriage Monday. That's why it's important to me that I do what I can to impart wisdom and impart straight knowledge and impart straight wisdom. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to play with it because life ain't no sugar. Life is important. Time is valuable, and you don't get to redeem lost time. All you can do is start marking time from where you currently are. So your homework is get that pen and that paper. Don't text it. Don't type it. Write it down. Get you some blank paper, not with no lines, because some people write bigger than them lines. Don't let them lines distract you. Write this stuff down and give it to them. Write your husband a letter. Handwrite it. Write your husband a letter. Write your wife a letter. Don't text it. Don't email it. Write it with your own hands, people. If you got to print it, print it. If you got pretty penmanship, write it in some cursive. But write to your spouse. Go to the store and buy them a thank you card. Go to the store and buy them a card. Go to the store and buy them a rose. I didn't say a whole dozen. I said one. And put it with that card. And let your mate know how much you love them. I don't care what's going on in your marriage in this season. Let your mate know that you love them. Let your mate know that you appreciate them. Let your mate know that you care about them. If y'all are having issues, if you going through marital problems, get to somebody that can help you. Cut out being on the island by yourself. Can y'all be quiet while I'm on my live? Close the door. Thank you. Get to it, people. Because at the end of the day, it is so important. Cut out the foolishness. Quit listening to your good girlfriend that tell you he ain't no good, leave him. He was some good, you married him. Quit listening to unhappy people that's married, telling you marriage ain't for everybody, telling you this, that, and the third. Quit listening to unhappy people. Quit listening to people that's having bad marriages. Stop it, because that's not you. Don't allow what they say to dictate your behavior. Don't allow what they say to dictate how you get along with your spouse. Don't allow other people's opinions of their situation to dictate how you manage yours. That is so important in this season, because if you don't, you will end up like them, unhappy with a roommate. That ain't cute. This is a family channel, and I'm gonna keep it GP. But listen, when you got a husband and a wife, and you got your mate in that house with you, y'all better have sweet fellowship as often as possible. Except for when you're fasting and you got to get permission, saints. Because then that help him to not be looking at sister and brother over there at the job. They come in wearing it tight because they know, they got some attention. I'm telling you, be faithful, be committed, have fellowship, make it sweet, make it nice, do what you got to do. If you ain't creative, girl, they got stuff on YouTube that'll help some of y'all. Because people put everything on YouTube. You can learn how to do hair. You can learn how to decorate a room. You can learn how to do a DIY project on YouTube. So do whatever. Go get you some rose petals. Sprinkle them things on that bed. Sprinkle them into a heart. I don't care what you do, but you better keep that fire lit in your marriage. Because you can't expect everybody. Don't be mad at me because I'm good. Don't be mad at me because I'm solid in mine. Listen, I tell people often, I don't have no shame. They call my husband's name in church. Y'all hear me clearly. They call his name. He could be the president. I always say this one. He could be the president of the toilet tissue committee. But let me tell you something. When they say Elder Stanley Campbell, hey, amen, hallelujah, I don't even know what they say. And they just say his name and I get excited. I'm just telling you. I get excited about mine. And it ain't no false pretense. It's real. I'm going to be excited about him. I'm going to rub that bald head. Y'all see that picture behind me? I'm going to rub that bald head and tell him, you a good man. I love you. You provide for me. You take good care of me. I don't just say it to stroke his ego. I say it because it's the truth. And the more I tell him the truth, the more he would go to work. The more I told him the truth. I told him, baby, you look good in that Firestone uniform. I like how you tuck your shirt in your pants. Y'all play entirely too much. He was very methodical when he would get ready for work. So I tell him, baby, you look good. Going, ooh, you look good. I like how you got your name, wear your name on your chest. Y'all play too much. Yes, sir. I like how you put your shoes and your socks on. I like how you put that belt on that fifth hole. Come on. I like all of that. Because at the end of the day, when that man would walk out that door and go to work, I could turn back over and go back to sleep because he was going to make sure I was solid. He was going to make sure these lights stayed on. He was going to make sure we had food. He was going to make sure that them bills was paid. That man worked for that company for 33 years. He started working for Firestone the year before we got married. And I told him, somebody say, your husband, somebody had the audacity, and I'm going to bring my guest after I say this because I don't want her on this camera laughing. I want her to laugh backstage. But somebody had the audacity to ask me, do you know if your husband got a girlfriend? I said, he sure does. Her name is Firestone. And she takes great care of me. She makes sure all our bills is paid. He goes to her, he goes and sees her every day. 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week. He goes spend a lot of time with her. And she is good to me. I want him to keep that girlfriend as long as he can. Yes, sir. Ain't nobody playing. Can y'all be quiet in the peanut gallery? I want y'all to know I appreciate my husband to the highest. And when my husband could no longer go to work, I still told him, you the best thing smoking. Listen, he didn't smoke. I don't smoke. But he the best thing that could ever happen to me. Because at the end of the day, because he got sick and because life changed, I would never diminish the way I feel about him. That made me love him even more. That made me want to make sure I could do everything for him to be healthy, for him to be whole. Because he spent 33 years of his life making sure I was solid in this relationship. Right. When you love your spouse, you will do whatever it takes to make sure your spouse is solid. When you love your spouse, those vows that you made and you live them and they are real reality, it takes your marriage to a whole different place. So he ain't got to worry about not wanting to come home, because when he come in this house, I let him go. When he was working, I let him go straight to that room. Let him sit down in his chair. Let him take his shoes off. Let him get comfortable before I asked him anything. And if I didn't cook that day, I made sure I went to the stove, brought it back to the house, put it in the pan, made it look like I cooked it. Y'all play too much. And if it was something that was highly salted, I add a little more water and little whatever and made sure it was good and like we like it. And that's what we did over 33 years. And we still rocking and rolling today. Since this virus didn't hit, he do breakfast and I do dinner. And together we come together for lunch. Y'all play too much. You got to figure it out to make it work in this season, especially when you're indoors a lot. I'm telling y'all. So my guest is here and I'm going to bring her. Y'all pray for my other two guests. They couldn't make it to be with me today, but they'll be back with me next week. But I'm going to bring my guest on because I want her to share, and she's going to be in two parts. Because, some people got to go to work every day. Some people ain't working from home. Some people got to clock in, really go to like a physical building outside of their home. But my guest was able to come on and be with me today. So I want to bring Charlita. I'm going to call her Lita. I'm going to bring Sister Lita, First Lady Lita on. And I want her to just introduce herself and to we're going to do her in two parts. And we're going to talk about, marriage. And I want her to share in one part, and I'm bringing this because I'm gonna mute myself because I know I'll be back here hollering while she's talking. So if y'all see my mouth open and wide and my hands up, that's because I'm over here getting excited about what she's saying. But this is what I want her to talk about. I want her to introduce herself, and then I want her to share how she is managing being married to the pastor. That's what I want her to talk about in this part. Yes, sir. See, I didn't bring the pastor. I just brought her because we want her side. I might have to bring the pastor on another day so the pastor can give me his side of the story. But anyway, but I want Charlita, First Lady, to come introduce herself and to tell us how she is managing being married to the pastor, being the First Lady of their new ministry. Okay? All right. Hey, lady.
Hey.
How are you?
I was back here cracking up, honey. Well, I'm Charlita Houston. My artist name is Lita Cologne. And I'm first of all, thank you so much for having me on here. It's definitely have been I guess a roller coaster ride, being a first lady. I always told my husband, like, I don't want to be no first lady. I was like, I have never intended, how some people be like, oh, I want to be the pastor's wife. And I mean, I grew up with pastors in my family, generational pastors. My grandfather was a pastor. My grandmother was a pastor, my mom, my uncle, my brother. So I'm like, I already know the deal. I'm like, I don't want to have to be in the forefront like that, already being a PK kid. My dad was a pastor. So I did not call for this. I just want to say I did not pray for this. I did not want this at all. But you know what? My husband is a very obedient man. And he was like, the Lord is calling me to pastor. And when he first told me that, I'm like, are you listening carefully? I was like, because sometimes we talk to ourselves, right? So I'm like, maybe you need to go back and ask again, maybe like 4 or 5 times before we actually do this, And he was like, he said, me. He said, I don't never say God said something unless I get, confirmation. He was like, and I really believe that it is time for us to go out on our own. So prior to our ministry now, we've been in ministry as far as changing lives for 4 years. But prior to that, we started ministry in 2009 for a couple of years. And the reason why that ended was because just finance and trying to find a building and things like that. It was just really difficult. We wind up sharing a building with a church, and they expected us actually to merge with them, and that was not the agreement. So because we didn't merge with them, then we no longer had access to the building. So at that time, I was like, me and my husband's like, okay, what do we do? Do we continue the ministry or do we go somewhere else? And at that time, we didn't know anything about anybody else because, like I said, it was always my family church. I grew up in a family church, and that's where I met my husband. So we didn't know about other ministries and other pastors. But my husband had a client because he does insurance, and his client went to Pastor Matthew's church. And so she was telling us about the church. And I was like, well, maybe we could go there and assist until God, allow us to leave again on our own. And we was praying, and we met up with him. And he was like, oh, you're exactly what I need at this time. And we didn't know nobody there. When I say nobody, we only knew the person that my husband did business with. So this was definitely a leap of faith for us to do this. And like I said, I never went to anyone else's ministry. So we went to his church, and I learned a lot from being at Genesis, and so did my husband. And then we just knew that it was time. We knew that it was time. And so when my husband started, it wound up being a family support. My sisters and my brothers all came together, and we started the ministry. My cousins start coming. Then it just wind up everybody doing their own thing, And we like, okay, it seemed like every time we was getting somewhere, then something would happen where somebody will leave, or the finances would change, or something like that. And it's like, God, we were doing well, we were thriving, and something will always happen. And so I think during that time, it was very hard for me and my husband's relationship, because I had suggestions, and I was not trying to be the pastor. Trust me, I was not trying to be the pastor. But I think sometimes as wives, we see things that our husband don't see. And I was playing the position of a wife, but also I'm an evangelist. So, I'm like, I'm seeing things spiritually, I'm seeing things naturally, and I'm trying to come at him, not as my husband a lot of times, but as a pastor, and be like, I think you need to watch out for this. And how my husband was coming to me or responding to me was the wife and not the evangelist. So that took some time to, really work out, because of our roles, our different roles. We had to learn how to respond to each other in those particular roles and trust each other in those roles. This was really new for my husband, and it was new for me too, but I don't think that the trust was there, because we both were trying to figure it out at the same time. So we didn't have, enough confidence in each other to know, okay, they really know what they're talking about. But God would show me things ahead of time, or he would warn me of things ahead of time. And I would try to let my husband know, and he didn't see it at that time. And so what I had to learn how to do is just pray. I'm like, okay, I cannot give it to him yet. So I'm just going to pray, and I'm going to ask God to either let me know when to give it to him, or to actually reveal it to him himself. And so when I began to pray, then God began to reveal it to my husband. And so I didn't need to do anything. But, as a woman, we want to make sure that we're protecting our husband as well, because I saw the danger, and I'm like, babe, you don't need to go that way. You really don't need to go that way. And like I said, it's a lot of times us as wives, we see things before our husband do, because our husband is, and I'm not saying this with all men, excuse me, men, but one track mind, If you're focused on taking care of the church, then that's the mindset that you have. If you focus on taking care of your household, that's the mindset that you have. Us women, we can multitask. We be like, okay, kids, family, church, work. We can think about all that in 2 minutes. Okay, so it took some time. It took some time for us to really begin to trust each other and the position that we held in the ministry. And the people at the church could tell you I'm not the particular first lady. I'm the first one in there cleaning up. I'm the last one to leave cleaning up. I make sure everything is set up. I'm being of service as much as I can. And I told somebody this. I said, all I want in the ministry is for my husband to be concerned about the word of God and delivering the word of God to his people. I don't want him to have to worry about anything else. The business, I don't want him to have to worry about. The saints, of course, he's going to check up on the saints, but I'm going to be that one to give me the list. Let me call them and see how they're doing. I don't want him to have to worry about anything but delivering the word of God and hearing from God. And so that's what I do. I do as much as I can to alleviate a lot on his plate, so that all he could do is focus on what God is giving him for the people. Because it's a lot. It's a lot that you have to take on. And I've seen it. I've seen the change. I've seen the good and the bad. I've seen the disappointment that my husband have. And he doesn't show a lot. He doesn't let people know. But of course, as his wife, I know, so I see the disappointment. And I see all of that, but I also see the change, and I see the growth, and I see how he is dealing with people now versus before, where it was like, okay, just tell me what you want to do. But now he's going up to people and like, you know what? I see God is leading you to do X, Y, and Z. And I told him, I said, that's what you're supposed to do. Because if you give people too much freedom, honey, they ain't going to do nothing. They're not going to do anything. So you need to go and tell them what you see and what they're capable of. Because too, a lot of people don't even believe what they're capable of. They don't even know what they even have in them. And so it's the responsibility of the leaders to let them know what they actually possess and what they actually have and what they can actually contribute to the house of God. And I just think that because a lot of times we come from a background in church where we were forced to do things, we was forced, you have to. So my husband, like, okay, I ain't gonna say you have to do anything. But I told him, I said, it's a way of doing it. We're not forcing the people, but we allowing them to see what they actually have in them that could help the ministry and help themselves. And definitely, I have seen growth in my husband. I have seen growth in the people of God. My husband does a lot of community work. And that's something different because every ministry, like I said, my family ministry that I was in, we did a lot of things in-house. We did a lot of things in-house, and we fellowshipped and we did all of that. Well, this is totally opposite. We'll go and support, services and stuff like that. But my husband is not the kind to have anniversaries and pastors' appreciations. Yeah. He said, no, he said, it's not about me. It's about the community. So all of that energy and all of that money that we will put into that, we go out into the community. My husband give away Safeway cards, gift cards. He go to Saint's house and go to their neighbors and see if they need any food. We do clothes driving. We go to shelters and sing and cook for them. So it's a lot of community work that we do that I have never experienced before, but that is the vision that God has given my husband.
And that's the pastor.
Yes.
Okay. So we're not talking about pastors today, y'all, but she married to the pastor. So I just need to hit this for a moment. So that's the pastor going to the shelter. And the reason I'm saying that can also that's another way, because you both work together in ministry. That is another way for you all to fellowship together and serving other people. So then it creates a whole different dynamic at the house. So listen, y'all play too much. See,
come on, girl.
Play too much. I'm trying to help y'all to understand when you can work with, especially you wives that have husbands in ministry. It ain't all about, I ain't the first lady, but my mama was, and I watched my mama do the same thing. It ain't about you being cute in your hat,
right?
And you can't do nothing, and the people can't never see you doing nothing, right? But y'all want the people to do. So the best example of that is you to do.
Right.
The fault is when y'all get home from what y'all do as pastor and wife, then he gonna say, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I ain't been to your house. I don't know where you live. I don't even know what color your mailbox is. But I'm sure he say, babe, you sure did a good job today serving them peas.
Yeah.
Or serving them sandwiches. You sure did a good job. And then you gonna say, hey. Y'all play too much. See? And then that sparks some fellowship. Y'all play too much.
Some great fellowship.
And listen, again, when you are excited, you create a level of excitement with other people. And whether they ever say it or not, when they go home, they are laughing. They are thinking about, did y'all see Pastor and wife cupcaking while we was passing out sandwiches? And if they do not attend the church, their mate is going to say, they was doing what? And then all of a sudden, it's going to strike up a conversation, especially if their mate is not a believer.
Right.
So it's going to spark a conversation because you haven't said nothing about the Lord. You haven't said nothing about them going to church. Right. All y'all talking about, all the conversation is about the fact that you all was cupcaking while passing out sandwiches at the shelter, or passing out food at the picnic, or just whatever, which is another avenue for winning souls to the kingdom.
Yes. And
so that's why I wanted to jump in right there, because people don't realize, people that don't know God, that don't go to your church, can see God through even your relationship.
Yes.
And how you treat your spouses. And that's why.
Come
on, talk about that, please. I'm muting my mic because I was over here screaming while you was talking. Go ahead.
No, you know what? People had said this to us, and I was really shocked. They were like, you guys cannot possibly be that happy with each other and being married as long as you guys have been married. And I thought that, I was like, that is so unbelievable. I'm like, so do you expect people to be miserable that has been together a long time? They said, but you guys carry it as if you had just gotten married. And I said, you always just, when I came on, you was talking about, honey, if you got to change your hairstyle, if you got to do whatever you got to do. I change my hairstyle every week. I'm like, baby, you like this? You want this? You know, whatever you got to do to make sure that it does not die down. Me and my husband do it. And we're very competitive too. So I'm going to do something and he's going to try to outdo me. And then I'm going to try to outdo him. And what that does is that it leaves both of us never wanting anything, because we're trying to outdo each other in a friendly competition. But none of us go lacking because we want to do for each other. And so my thing is, and there have been times where it felt like it was getting stale. But let me tell you, every time it felt like that, when it was getting like, okay, this is becoming redundant. It's just becoming redundant. God would do something in our marriage that just will light a fire. You hear me? We would have to be shut in for at least a week. Okay. Because God would do something that will light that fire again every time. And it could be something as simple as something like you said that we share together, something that we're doing together, or we have a memory that just happened and we're laughing about that. And that's the thing that was spark it up again. So every time it felt like it was about to die down, God would do something that would spark it up. And so I tell them, I said, you know what? If you find that your marriage is stale, try new things, first of all, but always make sure that you pray. I said, because I don't even have to pray now. God knows, okay, it's coming to a dull moment. Let me put this in their way.
Girl,
right?
I don't pray at all. I don't need the Lord's help. Girl, I don't need the Lord's help. The only help I need him is just give me strength. Because sister gonna cut up. You understand what you have to. Because if you don't,
right,
somebody else will.
Right.
And we don't want the somebody else's in our houses.
Right.
And we don't want the somebody else's in our houses by way of what our husbands is carrying from somebody else's.
Right.
That whole part.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yep. That whole part.
That whole part.
Listen, because no, I do not like going to jail. I do not like the bars. I've gone to the jail to sing to the people and then was asked for my license real quick so I can get out of there, because that is not my ministry. I can't be in a space too long without windows. So it wasn't working for me. I was like, hallelujah. I'm grateful you all were blessed. Praise the Lord. Provide. Lord, here's your thing. And where's my license?
Right.
So I knew that was not my ministry. But you never know when people do stuff, what you might do.
Right.
And so I didn't want to be the minister of music of the prison choir. Amen. So I didn't. I didn't want to catch no cases. I didn't want to put my hands on nobody. Any of those sorts of things. And I just tell my own truth. Hey, I've been delivered and I give God praise. But I say that because we as wives, and you're married to the pastor, my husband is an assistant pastor, but when I married him, he was a preacher. And I have tried my hardest to not mess up, mainly because he's a preacher.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And I've seen growing up, other people mess up their husband's ministries by the talking about the husband because of their actions as his spouse. I didn't say I was perfect. I didn't say I did everything right. I didn't say I was always 200%, but it always came back to me. Do not mess up, because if you mess up, you are losing so much valuable time and experiences that you've had in this relationship that it's not like we can't recover, but why spend that energy and that time on messing up when you just need to be right and do right?
Right. Exactly.
And when you said, you said something to him, not from the wife side, but from the evangelist side, some people don't even get that. That went over their head.
Right.
But that you weren't trying to say anything to hurt him, to hinder what he's trying to do. You were trying to be helpful. And that's why I'm saying, even with us being married, the amount of time we have been married, we will still hit things in the road that we have never experienced in our marriages, in our relationships. And we have to figure out how to do it. So I had to learn, as vocal as I am sometimes, I had to learn, girl, turn her all the way off.
Yes.
And just sit in your corner.
Right.
And let him do what God has called him to do. Because I promise you, within 10 minutes, he's going to ask you a question about what he should do.
10 minutes.
10 whole minutes. It's going to take about 10 whole minutes. And then you're going to be like, now, wait a minute. What did you do? I never thought about it like that. And then you're not gonna respond with an attitude.
Right.
Like, you could have listened to me when I said it 10 minutes ago. No, you're right. You're gonna repeat your whole self all the way over again from start, like you are rewinding it. You're not gonna say it with the neck action. Right. Your hand on your hip or your side or whatever you call it. Because that's, whatever. But you're not going to do that. You're going to be sweet. And you're going to say it with a smile. Because then within yourself, I knew he was going to come around. Girl, and that part. So that whole part. But no, it's amazing. And I love communicating and talking to people and seeing where people are, because people need to know that there are people that are genuinely happy in their relationships. They are genuinely happy. They are not putting on no airs. They are not putting on a front. This is how we wake up in the morning, and this is how we go to bed.
Right. Exactly.
Period.
We
wake up laughing. He gonna say, Frida, how you go? My husband say to me, you just opened up your eyes and you already clowning? Really? How are you doing that?
And I say that to my husband. You just got up.
I mean, come on. There are people that we genuinely love our mate. We genuinely, I want to say generally, we genuinely love our husband.
Yes.
You see two young ladies on this live that genuinely love their husband. Okay,
yes. Genuinely, honey. Yes.
And
that's
people
right.
have found out how much I genuinely love my husband. They really found it out more when he was sick. And I shut the world down to make sure that man was solid.
Yes. Yes.
COVID didn't shut me down. I shut the world down.
Yes.
Okay. And there are times in marriage that you as a wife have to shut it down.
Come on.
Sure, your husband is solid as a rock. That is your responsibility, wife.
Yes.
It ain't your responsibility to put it off on the church and everybody else. It is your responsibility.
Right.
Guess what? The church, hey, husband, you know what? The church is going to keep going whether you going or not. But your responsibility is to your husband, ladies. I'm telling y'all the truth, because we get messed up and we will we will want the church to pray heaven down for our husband. And then we ripping and running the road and all of this. And we having our family members to go over and check on them. No, ma'am. That is your responsibility, wife.
Right.
It's your responsibility. Because somebody gets rubbing on your husband while you ain't there. That girl over there taking care of your husband while you ain't there. Then he'll be grabbed on up. And then before you know it, it's a whole nother healing line going on while you ain't there.
Right. That's right.
That's what I'm saying. So I just needed to speak to that moment. I have moments that I have Tourette's and I just jump in right there. And it's
well, people need to hear that. People need to hear it. It's all right.
I have moments. I tell all my guests, I have moments. People call it Tourette's. I call them moments.
Moments. I know.
I need to say it right there. And so, I just have. And I tell everybody, if I start rubbing, y'all see me going back and forth, that means I'm rubbing on my knees. That means I'm just like, yes, Lord, please help me. If I shift in my seat, it's really bad.
I am mad at you.
And I'm telling y'all, because that's my thing. That was why I really did Marriage Monday, because I wanted people to see that there are people that are happy in being married. Everybody speaks so negative about marriage and when people's marriages aren't successful. So I wanted to make sure I could bring a platform where we highlight people that are happy in their marriages and let people actually see that there are people that are genuinely happy about being married.
Right. And that's very, very important. That's very, very important, especially if we're trying to model Christ in the church. It's very important. And it's so sad that we have people that really think that marriage is a fake. That the relationship that they see is really a fake. It's really sad that that's the mindset of people nowadays. And I'm so glad that you do have a show like this where you could really highlight and let people see, no, honey, marriage is right. Marriage is good. Marriage is the way to go, because it's just, I've been married like over half of my life, honestly. I got married when I was 19. Me and my husband was dating when I was 16. And I really say that this is all I know. I don't know how to be single. I don't know how to be single. This is all I know. And I say that it is the best thing that has happened to me. I thank God. I wake up and I thank God and say, God, thank you for allowing me to get married at a young age. Some people think, oh, you missed a lot or you ain't test the waters. Honey, I don't need to do all that. I didn't need to do all of that because who I have, who I have right now was meant for me. So I didn't need to try to test anything to try to find out what was for me, I already have it. And I've had it for 20 something years. So I thank God for marriage. I thank God for what it stands for. I thank God for the growth in it. I thank God just for how God designed it to be. And it not only allows you to take care of someone else, but it allows you to see yourself a lot of times. And I thank God, because in seeing myself and the development of myself being with this man, I know that I would be somebody different with somebody else, anybody else.
Mm-hmm. I know you're right.
Yes.
I know you're right about that. I know I would, because see, God, and that's the thing, God had to design our spouses just for us.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
he knew who we were.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew I was going to need somebody that could put me in check and not have to lift his voice to put me in check. All my husband say is, Frida. And I'll be like, Lord. Lord. Yeah. All I can do is say, okay.
You already knowing, huh?
I already know. If I'm saying something, and especially if I'm talking loud in the room and there's a few other people in there and I get loud and whatever, and I say something, he don't even have to be in the room. And he hear me talking. And I could just hear that voice, Frida. And when he says Frida, they have no clue. They only know how I respond.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so I'll be like, oh Lord, I'm in trouble because he done called your name. And I'm like, oh. All right, Reverend, I'll change the subject. And then I start talking soft, so he can't hear me.
I know, right?
But it's cool. It is fun. It is refreshing. It just like, and it's amazing to know that we've been married all this time for 33 years, and we've had more good days.
Yes.
Had bad days. When I tell you, that is such a pleasure to know that I like coming home.
Yes.
Girl.
Yes.
When I had to go out and sing, and my husband was the type, or he is the type, he didn't want to go with me when I traveled to sing. You'll be good. They're going to take it. He always made sure I was good.
Yeah.
But his thing was, I'll be at work while you working. I'll be at work, make sure the boys are good. I didn't do a whole lot of traveling like I could have when my kids were coming up and things of that nature. But he was always like, I'm good. My husband didn't hardly want to go to no musicals with me. And I was in Oakland.
Right.
I'm always trying to be at the musical. We trying to close down the church. We going to, when Marriage was open, we would be at Marriage. When whatever restaurant, we go into the restaurant. He at the house. Text me, you okay? Yep, I'm good. We at the restaurant. Okay, no problem. But at the end of the day, he made sure I was solid. Right. And it's like, that's cool. Right. Sometimes the wife, we gotta make sure our husbands are solid.
Yes.
But in all that we do, it's we get to replicate God in the earth.
Yes. Oh yes.
And people get to see.
They get to see.
They get to see a living example of who God is as a loving Savior and a loving Father, as our Creator, and we get to exemplify that in the earth realm. Man, that's why I have no problem saying, listen, I love girl.
Yes, that's what I love.
I try to be dignified. I try to, use poise, and I try to be tactful and all of those sorts of things when they talk about the Lord.
Honey.
But when they mention my husband,
I'm yelling either regardless. You talk about the Lord, I'm yelling. You talk about my
but People put this thing on you because you're the first lady, or you the assistant pastor's wife, and you're supposed to act a certain way, and then I'm a recording artist, and all of this stuff that comes with all of that. So it's a certain behavior that you're supposed to, flow in, and you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't do that, and they shouldn't see you acting this way. Baby, I go hard in the paint for Jesus, for the Lord. Trust me, I'm an advocate for the Lord, and I don't belittle that.
Right.
And the Lord is with me at all times, but he ain't with me quite in the flesh. And when they say Reverend Stanley Campbell, or when he walked to the mic, I'm standing up. Like they said, all rise, the President of the United States is in the field, and I'm just standing up. I don't know what he's coming to the mic to say, and I really don't care. It's just the fact that he's walking to the mic. I'm just in. It's like they call LeBron's name, and I just stood up. Or they call some big player's name, and I've just stood up. Or Barack Obama has entered the building, and I'm standing up when he going to the mic.
You say don't have no idea what he about to say, right? But
I don't know what he gonna say. But he going, and I'm just standing up like, yes. Praise the Lord, saints. I'm just saying, that's how much I'm down for my husband. And right. So when people see it, they're like, man, you really love your husband. You really support your husband. Absolutely. Because he supports me when y'all don't see it.
Right. And that's the thing, that's the key right there. When y'all don't see it, support doesn't always have to be seen. It does not always have to be seen. And people, like you said about, traveling, when I had engagements and stuff, my husband didn't go with me either. But like you said, he made sure that I was taken care of. He made sure that, baby, you okay? Okay, I'm gonna meet you here. Support. He actually no, you need to go when I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He pushed me to a level where I needed to be. Mm-hmm. And so people don't see him physically there and feel, oh, you just left by yourself. Oh, right. Honey, you have no idea. Have no idea. Right. So support don't always have to be seen. And I think that that's what people need to realize too.
Yes. Yes. That's so important. So important. And we're going to talk about this briefly before we conclude, because I got to bring you back for part 2. Okay. Because I'm not going to say what I want you to talk about on part 2. Okay. I pulled a fast one on part 1. But anyway.
Yes.
Because I can do that. So
didn't have it prepared. I'm like, Jesus, no.
I just told her, I want her to come and talk about being married to, and balance and things of that nature. And she didn't know what I was going to say, how I was going to put that. That's how I like to do it, because I want it to be from your authentic self and not your rehearsed self.
Right.
When you got time to sit with it, you'll be like, oh, well, I can say this and I don't want to say that. I won't. No. I want you to think on the spot. And because when it's real, you don't have to think very long.
Okay. Yeah. You said we got a time restraint on this one.
What I'm just saying, when it's the truth, you don't have to think hard.
That's true. That's so true.
It's only when you probably know they ain't gonna tell the whole truth, so you want them to kind of give you a good answer. No. And so what I want to talk about briefly is how you are able in this season, managing in this season with this COVID and everything going on and the sheltering in place and, doing ministry and working and being a wife and all of those roles you have to play. How are you managing that in this season and still staying sane?
You know what? Honestly, The pandemic has been a blessing for me. It definitely has, because from this pandemic, I have birthed so many new projects that I've been wanting to do. I have really listened to the voice of the Lord. I've always recognized the voice of the Lord, but God began to speak differently to me in this pandemic. And he was like, you wrote a whole lot of songs years ago that I sat on. And he was like, it's time for you to release them. And I'm like, but God, you go through all of this. It ain't good enough. It ain't finished. I don't have the resources. And he was like, I will give you the resources. And it just seemed like one thing happened after another. Like as soon as we were quarantined, I told my family, I said, we're going to work on this project together. And like you said, working on something together, it brought us even tighter. I mean, me and my 3 girls and my husband, I recorded a song. We actually went out and shot the song together. They helped me with different designs and stuff like that. Everyone had a part in that project. And that made us, more tight as a unit, because we had something that we were focusing on versus listening to all of the chaos in this world. We had something positive to look forward to. And my kids and my family are very supportive. So we wind up doing that. I wind up getting ideas of how to expand my business, because I teach voice lessons, and I was also teaching music at a middle school. Well, I'm no longer teach music at the middle school. I'm not returning. So I'm in the process of expanding my business to not only do voice lessons, but hire someone to do piano lessons. And I'm taking classes online to do a music production. So I'm really investing during this time. I'm really investing in family and myself. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do things for the ministry. We took out old equipment and put in new equipment. God just opened up the door for so much. And it seemed like over a period of months, the things that I desired for the ministry, the things that I desired for my household, the things that I desired for my family, God began to do it. He began to do it. He began to provide for the ministry, the things that I wanted. He began to expand my business and my knowledge of the next step that I need to take in my career. And then he brought our family even closer. And I told my husband, I said, I've been married to him for so long, but this year I have never felt the way that I feel about him. Yes. And I love, like you said before, I love my husband. I'm down for him. I'm his rock. But this year it was something about this year that just made me, I can't even describe it. The love was just so, it deepened into just so many different levels. Sometimes when you're growing with your spouse, you could kind of, okay, we're at a next level. You could kind of identify that you have reached another level. But girl, I'm telling you, we probably skipped like 5, 6, 7 levels, because I can't even put my finger on just how deep our love has grown within this year. And so I thank God, because God, during this time of, I say the time of quietness, because he shut everything down. My husband was busy prior to this time. He was doing insurance and doing some Instacart for some extra money. I was going to school all the way, and I stay in Pittsburgh. I was going to school and traveling all the way to Emeryville to teach. So our schedules wasn't, the way that we might have wanted them to be. We had one car, so I'm on the BART, then he got to pick it. We was concerned about those things, about life. How are we going to who's going to pick up the kids? Who's going, And so this time, when it was a quiet time, God began to show us what he was doing for the family. He began to show us what he was doing for us individually. And then he began to show us what he was doing for the ministry, all in a span of months. And I said, God, I thank you, because I didn't expect it to be this way. I honestly thought, oh, we're gonna just be struggling. It's gonna be hard, but this has been the best thing for me, the ministry, and my husband, and my marriage.
That's good. I mean, because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
And God has given us the opportunity to really, a lot of people are saying reset and refocus and all of those sorts of things. But for some people, it's to actually set things in order. It's not reset. It's for some people to set it in order.
That's it right there.
And for some people, he closed doors on purpose.
Yes.
Because he did not want us to go back through those doors, because we didn't see much of it at the time. Not that those doors per se were bad for us, but those doors were not going to get us to where we are right now.
Yes. Woo! Girl, I feel the spirit. Come on.
And many people are continuing to talk about reset and refocus and this and that. But for some of us in this season, it's to set things in order for how he really wanted it to be in the first place. But we didn't know that because we were so busy being busy.
Come on. Woo-hoo. Yes.
And so he allowed y'all with one car, you going here, your kids going there, your husband doing this, that, and a third, to maneuver, and y'all make everything work as a unit, which was causing more frustration. He now caused it to settle the frustration and to get you where he originally intended for y'all to be. So now you don't have to worry about nobody else doing your stuff for you, because your children have learned. Your children will be the ones, if you give anybody any money, you will be paying your children.
Yes.
That is the season that some of us are in. Life, camera, action.
Yes.
That is the season. So where other people, even in this season, have had to pay other people and be around other people, even though we're supposed to be practicing social distancing, and I'm not knocking people for doing what they do, but some of us have been blessed to have everything we need under the same roof that we live under.
Woo! Thank you, Jesus. Yes.
And I'm telling you, that's why for some of us, it ain't about nothing.
Right.
Some of us, it's about setting it in order. And for some of us, it's about setting us up so that when we come out of this, we come through. See, this is the thing. Well, I done shifted in my seat. When we come out of this, we're coming out of this with money in our pockets. Other people gonna come out broke.
Come on now.
That part. We're coming out with more knowledge of our businesses than giving other stuff to other people to handle business for us.
Come on.
Are coming out well informed, because he has given us nothing but time. He has given us nothing but time to use our time that a lot of people saying they bored. He's given us time to fine tune what he had already given us before this thing even hit. So that when we do come out, people gonna be wondering, so who shot your video? Who did this? Who took them pictures? How you come up with that cover? How you produce this? What did you use? What program did you use? Because they sending me that now. So what program do you? I got a message today. Sister Frida, what program did you use? I didn't got all out of focus because I'm moving. Every time I move, my camera ain't ready. So I just start fidgeting and moving and carrying on. And my camera got to catch up with me. Don't worry about it, y'all. I'm still here. But I got a message today. Sister Frida, when you have those things in your background, what did you use to produce that? And I'm going to tell all of y'all right now what I did to produce that. Okay. I'm going to give you this. I ain't going to charge you for this because some people charge you for all of this stuff. I'm going to tell you, I had a screen in my house that I could turn around right now and it would have them squares on it with the little white background with the wood on it. Okay, that's that screen. And then I took some green fabric and I stapled that green fabric to the other side of that screen. And then I created what is called a green screen. And I created the backgrounds with the picture and background design on a website called www.bannereasy.com. And you can, if you know how to add pictures, it gives you the dimensions that you need, and you can add the picture so that the picture is on one side of you and you ain't sitting all in the picture on the whole screen.
Right. Yes.
What that's called. And then you go get you some office lights. Y'all play too much, some desk lights. And put them, if you can't get the ring light, because the ring light sold out real fast when this hit, because everybody was going live. So if you can't get you a ring light, you get you some little individual lights and you situate them accordingly. So some of the light is hitting your face and some of the other light is hitting your green screen. And there you have what you're looking at right now.
Right.
But I didn't know that until COVID hit.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
So now I've developed a whole TV network.
Yes.
Online.
Yes.
But that's okay. Because it's so good. It's all good. Because in a minute,
right.
But you gotta start somewhere.
You gotta start somewhere.
And the people got to see you.
Right.
I'm all for having vast audiences. I'm all for having the big audience. I'm all for that. But we got 6 people right now that's watching. But if I can say something that can help them 6 is going to multiply to another 6. And them 6 is going to multiply to some more 6s. And before you know it, it ain't going to be 666. It's just going to be some more 6s because people are touching other people based on the information that they see. Same thing in marriage. When they see, they'll duplicate.
Right.
So they see me and you on here happy about our husbands. They see me and you on here, and it's just the 2 of us. We're excited about our marriages. We're excited about being there for our husbands and supporting our husbands. So it's going to light a fire under some other women that say, you know what? I want my marriage to be like that.
Yes.
I heard them say this is what they had to do to get to that. So I'm going to try that.
Yes.
I'm going to try being quiet.
Right. Right. That's number 1.
But really, that's all it is. We are duplicators in the earth. And whatever is working for us, we shouldn't be afraid to share that.
That's right.
Because it's working for us. And so I appreciate, man, you got to come back.
Yes.
Your whole thing. See, this is the thing. So I do breakout shows. So I do Marriage Monday. Of course, I do Thankful Tuesday. I do Worship Wednesday. I do Transforming Thursday. I do Funny Friday because y'all know anyway. Funny Friday. I do Singing Saturday. And of course, I do my Sunday singing service. Okay, great. But because I do all of those things, I needed a show for all of those things.
Yes.
I couldn't just lump it into one thing. Right. I needed to break it out. But what you have done is you have caused this Marriage Monday segment to become Transforming Thursday.
Okay.
About your businesses, because on Transforming Thursday, I give Transforming Thursday the platform of bringing on business owners that talk about their businesses and how their business has transformed their life. Wow. You have already demonstrated to the people how your has transformed your life on Marriage Monday.
Oops.
It's all good. It's all good. And this is the thing. I want people to see that there are people that are happily married that do other things in their life outside of always following their husband around.
Right.
Always being in their husband's face. Y'all don't realize your husband needs some space. So
yes.
he's excited about seeing you, but you don't have to always be sitting up. Create a life for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And don't lose who you were.
Right.
Come on. Got married.
Come on. Come on.
That's why I brought all that together. I'm glad that you are multifaceted. I'm glad that you do a number of things. I'm glad that you are working your business. I'm glad that you're able to bring other people in, because it's showing people we can still live a whole life and live a happy whole life and not be miserable.
Yes.
That is so important. You have to come back.
Yes.
You have to come back, and you have to come back as often as you like.
Okay.
So you just have to let me know, and we will schedule accordingly, because I'll be here every Monday, even after the pandemic is over. I call it a pandemic. Even after that is over, because they planned for this to happen anyway. Even after all of this is on, I will still be here with these lights on.
Yes.
After all of that, I will still be here, because I want to make sure that since God has placed me in this position to do this, I have to be a good steward over it. And it's not just temporary.
Right. Right.
So when God was giving me, this is the thing, God gave me this download to do this last March. Hear me clearly. And we're going to be done for the day, because I can go on and talk for another 4 hours and I wouldn't skip a beat and I wouldn't repeat myself. But he gave me the download to do this very thing I am doing last March while my husband was in the hospital. And I'm like, Lord, you want me to do what? You want me to start an online what? I ain't got time to do that, because I'm taking care of him. I have to get him to all of his my husband had to go see 5 different doctors. My husband had his body, it was just shutting down. So I was dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of making sure he was good. That's why I had to shut the world down, because I'm going to all these different appointments. I got to remember all of these medications he got to take. I have to keep all of this stuff. My husband he suffered memory loss. So I had to make sure I knew every account number. I had to make sure I knew everything to run our household. I had to make sure I had all of that under control. I had to make sure we had advanced directives if anything happened. I had to make sure insurance, everything was decent and in order. I mean, when I'm telling you, so it went from what I was doing in ministry to now having to deal with my husband. But while he was in the hospital, God gave me downloads, and I didn't realize until March, a year later, why those downloads were so important for me to get the previous March while he was in the hospital.
Yes. Yes.
And so here we are. COVID hit us a year later. Right. And I've often said, had this happened this year, I wouldn't have been able to be in the hospital with him. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have been able to be in the room with him. Right. He would have had to be in the hospital by himself. Mm-hmm. God has a way of setting us up to be in a position and in the right place at the right time to do what he has designed and called us to do and called us to be in this season. So I am going to have you back.
Yes.
Often as you want to come back and hang out with me on Marriage Monday. Y'all give her.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, this turned into a fireside chat. One of my other guests was supposed to be on with me, but some things happened and they had to go to work and they couldn't take their phone with them into work. And so but it's okay. They'll be back. I'm not even worried about them. But it was a fireside chat because I was able to say some things that I needed to say. And then also us being on this today, it's just been so encouraging. It has been so uplifting. And I pray that those that have watched, those that have tuned in, we've been on, listen, I've been on for over 2 hours. I was supposed to have been going to work myself. So yeah, I know you kept looking down. I was like, I know she's looking at the clock, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
But I had to make sure I got this in today.
Yeah.
Because people need to know. And those that catch the replay, you have homework. You have homework, people. Your homework assignment is to write your spouse a handwritten letter. You also have to go to the store. When you go to the store, make your store runs, get them a card and a thank you card. Buy your spouse a thank you card. Tell them thank you for putting up with you for all of the years that you gave them trouble. Get them one single rose, not a dozen. You got to count your pennies. You got to use wisdom. But get them one single rose and give them that card and that flower, that rose, and tell them thank you. Sometimes our spouses just need to hear thank you.
They do.
We can tell them I love you all day. But sometimes we need to know that thank you, even in our marriages, goes a long way. I appreciate you being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in. And I have to, next week, our All I Know TV choir will be on with our theme song for Marriage Monday. I have a theme song for every day, but we didn't get around to doing our theme song for Marriage Monday. But next Monday, our All I Know TV choir will have our Marriage Monday theme song. Look at God. God is I'm the altos, the sopranos, and the tenors. Amen. And we give God and we I didn't got tickled. We give God praise. But that's until next week. Thank you so much for being with us. We love you. And we will see you all next Monday for Marriage Monday. Be blessed and have a great one. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.